if this goes off, you're gonna have to come down and have me just my fingerprint
Okay.
turned on. Okay.
Okay. Is it 7? It's almost 7.
As long as you touch the screen and move it a little bit every few minutes, it won't go off.
Okay.
Hi, Candy. What are you humming?
Oh, I don't know.
It sounded like you're so vain.
Oh, well, I am, but it's because I dyed my hair blue today.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, see, it's blue. Right
Oh,
there.
lovely.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's so fun.
So it's almost time. Where is everyone? Do we have everybody? We don't have Dustin or Robin yet, do we? Hi, Colleen. Is she on mute?
It doesn't look like she's muted. Colleen. No, I can't hear you either.
Colleen, did you click the join audio button?
Hello.
Juan or Matt, can you try and help Colleen?
Can you hear us, Alex?
Yeah, we can hear you, Sitar.
What do you do? Can you do? Why don't you do yours?
It looks like Colleen's audio is not turned on yet.
Yeah, Colleen, your audio's not connected. You'll have to
Alex?
enable your audio.
Do we know where Robin and Dustin are?
I hadn't heard anything from them. So I am not sure.
Okay, because without them, we don't have a quorum, do we?
We've got 4.
Okay,
Let's see. You,
Well,
Let's
Candace.
call it. Hey,
Colleen.
Alex, give me your telephone number. Estoy en teléfono.
yeah,
Why don't you call Alex?
Hold on. You do.
me, Candace, Colleen, and Bart. Is Bart here?
Yep,
Okay,
that's-
all right.
Yeah,
Colleen, click out and go, click out of it and then go back in. Go out of the Zoom meeting and then come back into it. Click on connect with computer audio.
Alex, we cannot hear you. Can we just have you on the phone like this? What is that? Okay. All right, let's do that. I need to go to invite.
Ah, there's Robin.
I'll guide your location. Houston, San Jose. Houston. ID is One Tap Mobile. US Houston.
Not on the bottom is really no. Okay.
Do we have Colleen now?
Colleen, there should be a click to use computer audio or something like that button that you'll need to
It says she
tap
was
on.
connecting. Let's see.
I forget where it is on the iPads, but I think it's at the top.
Yeah, on the iPads, it's at the top.
There, it says that she's connecting now. Whatever you're
But
touching.
Colleen, I think you keep clicking out of the connection because it tries to connect and then it doesn't.
Okay, just hit it once.
Yeah, this is it. Hey, dude. On both Zoom with your You're not? Oh, I see. You can just call
Robin,
me.
I like that you're in outer space. It's pretty awesome.
That's so my husband can come in and make his dinner. Gotta do what you gotta do.
I can barely hear you. I don't know why it is so low.
Me?
Barely.
Satar, you might need to turn up your volume.
Is Colleen connected yet?
Nope. I asked Matt to give her a call to see if we can walk her
Okay.
through it.
Mine made me update, so maybe that's what hers is doing.
I had to update too.
Did you?
Uh-huh.
You have not entered any number. Please re-enter your meeting ID one by time. You have not entered any number. Please re-enter your meeting ID followed by pound. Goodbye.
We're getting closer, I think.
followed by pound.
Now I see it.
You have not entered any numbers. Please re-enter your meeting ID followed by pound.
One of these days we'll get it figured out.
No, by then we'll be in the real meeting, Quinn tells me.
That is a possibility.
Yep.
Well, it is 7:07. Rolling.
I'm afraid Colleen might think she needs to dial in instead of just press the
Well,
internet.
she called me and I transferred her down to our IT department so they could help her out.
Should we go ahead and start taking care of some of the business prior to the agenda items?
That'd probably be, well, I think since Colleen's a regular member, we probably want her to participate.
I would like her to be present.
Yeah. So apologies for everybody watching and tuning in as we try to address some technical difficulties.
I would like her to be present.
So apologies for everybody.
You should have to connect. Interesting. Screen code.
این آیدی رو شما داری بده من میزنم اینجا دیگه.
ندارم که.
باید داشته خب یه پس میل
آیدی.
باید ایمیل داری باید داشته باشی. باید ما اون هست.
یه چیز دیگه هست.
بیا.
بذار delete.
846.
I'm gonna delete the event. Goddamn COVID.
She starts connecting and then it takes her out. I'm not sure why.
I haven't ever played with it on the iPad, so I'm not entirely certain how it looks.
I hear you.
Hey, Sitar, thanks for joining us.
Hi. I may not see you, but I hear you.
Would you mind putting your mic on mute for the time being?
Put him on mute for the time being. I will.
It's not letting her connect.
Colleen, if it's easier, the meeting invite also has a phone number that you can call in on, and then we could hear you through the phone number and see you through the video.
No, go. You get the video. I have the phone. Just get the video. Just get to the Zoom. نوشتم آن روز. عکسی I sent you a link. Has a code.
Alex,
Yeah.
just so you know, we're troubleshooting Colleen right now. It may take a minute or two.
Okay. We can't, so we could get started and have Bart fill in for Colleen. And if we get to actual votes.
Okay. I think we should get started since it's almost 7:15.
So let's have her in the roll call. Let's have her as excused until she gets the technical difficulties marked off or figured out.
Okay, great.
So go ahead.
Okay, it is now 7:12 and this is Candy Tippett, and I'm going to call this meeting to order of the Midvale City Planning Commission. I want to welcome everyone streaming online and thank them for their patience while we navigate this situation in response to the current public health crisis. Can I ask Rory to take a roll call vote, please?
Absolutely. Okay. Vice Chair Tippett.
Here.
And can I ask just a clarifying, do you prefer board member or commissioner?
Commissioner.
Commissioner.
Commissioner she's Costello's excused. Robin Anderson.
Yes.
Dustin Snow.
Here.
Candace Erickson.
Here.
And Bart Benson.
Here.
And Commission Chair Zachary Smollett is excused.
Thank you, Rory. Before we start our agenda, we do have some housekeeping matters that Alex would like to take care of.
Yes.
So I'll turn the time over to Alex.
Great. Thanks, Candy. So I've got a few things that I wanted to talk about here at the beginning of this meeting. Hopefully it won't take too long. First, you'll notice we've got a couple new faces. I mentioned in my email with the packet that Nicole had left at the end of last month. So Rory is here filling in for her while we seek a replacement for Nicole's position. Rory is our city recorder, so she's well equipped to handle all of the typical goings on that Nicole would normally have done. As second, we had our new senior planner start this week. His name's Jason Binks. He's joined us on here somewhere. And I just wanted to introduce him to everybody, give him an opportunity to give you guys a quick intro to himself. And then when we get back.
Hello, everybody. I'm starting my 26th hour with the city. So on my third day, I'm going to push a 14-hour day. And I hope to meet you all in person, introduce myself a little more personally.
Thank you.
We're really happy to have Jason on board here. He's going to help take off some of that load that we've been seeing. Hopefully we don't need to do any more meetings like this in the near future, but if we do, we'll put him in charge of a lot of the work. Second, on my housekeeping items, I wanted to go over some concerns that I heard following the last meeting that we had in May. And the primary point of this is really for me to remind all of the commissioners that these meetings are recorded. These meetings are also, well, everything in the recording ends up as part of the public record. So it's really important to minimize the sorts of like background chatter and the comments that are made outside of that process. There were some comments made in the last meeting that some folks didn't really take kindly to about some of the participants in the process and the methods in which they did participate. So I just request and recommend that the Planning Commission keep that in mind as we continue to hold these virtual meetings. Unlike when we're in person, those comments end up getting recorded and posted across the whole internet. So it behooves all of us to keep in mind kind of the sorts of attitudes we're expressing and the way that it reflects on the city and the Planning Commission in the process as we go through this kind of challenging situation. That's number two. If you have any questions, we can talk about them outside of the meeting, just so that we don't slow down the proceedings any further. And then finally, for a couple of our projects on this agenda, specifically the Casablanca rezone and conditional use permit, and then the Pines preliminary subdivision plat, we did discover that there were some issues with the noticing that went out. And I wanted to go over with the Planning Commission what our procedures are for how we respond to and address notice issues. First, just to kind of give you some background, when we send out notices for public hearings, especially for rezones and subdivisions, there's a few different methods that we use to do that. We post it in 2 of the local newspapers. It also gets posted on the city's website, on the state's public notice website, and then on a legal website that is operated by one of those newspapers. We, depending on the project, may also post a notice at the property, which is, you might have seen some of the yellow signs that end up popping up around the city periodically. And then we post, I mentioned our website, and then we mail notices out to everybody that owns property within 300 feet of the project boundary. On both of these projects, all of those notices went out. All of them got posted on the website or posted on the property or mailed out. But we did discover after a little bit of time that about half of the notices for the Casablanca project got returned, and then a smaller portion, somewhere around a quarter of the notices on the Pine subdivision got returned. So in that event, the zoning ordinance directs the Planning Commission to basically take action and decide if the notice issues are enough to impair the public's ability to participate in the proceedings. And if so, the Planning Commission is directed to continue or table that item for at least 14 days, and then so that we can reissue notice in a proper fashion. On the Casablanca project, we have received quite a few comments. So Jana can give you the full details, but as I recall, it's something around 20 different comments came in, including some that were, there was at least one petition that was circulated around the neighborhood. And so we did get a large variety of comments on that one, despite the lack of mailed notices receiving about half of the, or being received by about half of the folks within the notice boundary. On the Pine subdivision, we haven't received any comments as far as I know, but that's not unusual for a project of this type. So really at this point, what I would like the Planning Commission to consider is whether those items should be continued to a later meeting, or if the commission feels that the notice received was still adequate for the public to participate, and thereby keep it on the agenda as scheduled. What do you think?
Alex, is this something we need to take a vote on?
Well, I was hoping that we could get a little bit of a discussion first, but ultimately you will need to make a vote.
Okay.
Also, real quick, it looks like Colleen might have got her audio figured out. She's muted at the moment. Colleen, you've got to unmute yourself. Yeah. Or Matt, if you can unmute her.
Am I unmuted?
There you are.
Yeah, there you are.
You know, I had gotten a couple of people from the Casa Negra, was it? But anyway, that they had called me at home. But where you have gotten like 22, did you say? 20?
About 20.
Yeah, about 20 feedbacks.
Mm-hmm.
I would almost say with that one, we could go ahead maybe, because I'm sure that the neighbors talked about it. But the other one, the Pines, now one of my friends called me because she lives on 210 East, just off of 78 South. And I don't know that she had much of a problem. She was just inquiring about that. So, but where you haven't had any, you know, any feedback from it.
This is Candy. I'm feeling a little differently about that. I think if half of the notices came back, I think we need to give those people a chance to be part of this. Even though they may have talked to neighbors, they're not talking to us. And I think that's kind of important. So
Yeah.
I would say I would rather have it renoticed, but that's my line of thinking.
Yeah,
Anyone else
maybe
have
we should have,
comments?
yeah. Maybe we should have both of them renoticed, do you think?
Well, I think if we have one, we have to do both.
Yeah,
So-
that's what I'm saying. That's just what I'm saying.
Well,
Bart here, is there a reason the notices came back?
We found some issues with the way that the mail merge went out that created the notice labels, and it ended up mixing up some of the street addresses with the city, state, and zip. So we had basically the lines didn't match. And so we had Midvale addresses that had or Midvale street addresses with like out of state city addresses. So we got them all returned saying these addresses don't exist because of that issue with the mail merge. That was true on both of those projects.
Because of that was the issue, I think we should probably try to remail those.
Yeah, yeah.
Does anyone else have comments? Candace, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
Just in my mind, this is Candace. A half seems like we would definitely need to ask, especially if there's so much interest. A quarter with very little interest. I agree with Candy and Colleen and Bart that if we're going to do one, we should do both, just to flesh out if there are real legitimate concerns, because I want to be able to hear everybody.
Hey, Alex.
This
Sorry,
is
which
Robin.
two were they?
I've heard a lot.
Go ahead, Robin.
I've heard a lot from neighbors for the Casablanca, since I live right there close by, that we need to listen. You know, some haven't known about it, so it's probably a good idea to.
Dustin, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I think we should re-notify.
Yeah.
Well, that appears to be the consensus. I'm open to having a motion to that effect.
So we'd want to, before you make a motion on that one, you'd want to reorder the agenda to bring those items up.
Okay.
Which
So
that requires a motion with unanimous approval by the Planning Commission.
okay, and those are numbers 5 and 6. So we would need to renumber the agenda. So it would be 1 through 5. Correct, Alex?
So you would basically just move 5 and 6 to the beginning.
Oh, okay.
And then you would, and assuming that is approved to postpone it or renotice it, you would make a motion with a finding that the defect impaired the surrounding property owner's ability to participate, and direct staff to, or continue the item and direct staff to renotice for the meeting, probably in July would be the one to do it for.
Okay, so I need 2 different motions.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, I would make a motion to number 5 and 6 up to 1 and 2 on the agenda.
Can I get a second on that?
A second.
Rory, will you take a vote, please? A roll call vote?
Yes. Commissioner or Vice Chair Tibbetts.
He doesn't vote on these ones.
Yeah, I don't get to vote.
Okay, great. Good to know. Commissioner Costello.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
And Erickson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so now that we've moved those up to the beginning of the agenda, we need to have another motion now.
Yep. So in this one, it would be essentially that because the notice defect impaired the ability to participate, you would move to continue those 2 items to the July 8th meeting and direct staff to renotice it consistent with the ordinance requirements.
Can someone make a motion for that, please?
Okay, I'll go ahead, but you might have to, Alex, kind of help me through that one. I would like to make a motion to move number 1 and number 2 onto the agenda on July, our first meeting in July, because of misinformation or because of the mistake that was made through the post office. And so that we will be able to hear these, but we will postpone them until next month.
Did you want to add in there that we need to renotice it?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. And with an amendment on that, we will need to renotice all of the people that had not been noticed. So new forms go out to all the residents.
Justin Snow, second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Rory, will you please take a roll call vote?
Yes. Commissioner Costello.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
And Erickson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So now we will continue with our agenda, beginning with what is now going to be matter 3. And just to keep this as orderly as possible, I will introduce the public
Can
hearing.
I say something? Hello, this is Satar.
Hey, Satar, now's not the time.
It's not, so should I just hang up? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so Candy, if I could interject for a second.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So Satar, for you and your client, and then also if Nick is still here, I think he hopped off. Those 2 items will move to the agenda on July 8th and send out renotices, so they won't be heard tonight. That also applies for all those that did contribute public comment already. We'll make sure to keep a hold of those and read them into the record in the next meeting in July. And if you wish to add additional comments, or if anybody else wants to provide comments before that meeting, we'll be sure to include those as well. But yeah,
I'm
those
sorry,
two items won't be considered tonight.
Could you not share the 26 comments that you have or not?
No, because we want to make sure to give everybody an opportunity to participate in the process, and to go through those comments would mean opening up the public hearing at this point. Jana can give you some summaries of what those comments look like if you want to talk to her tomorrow, or sorry, next week. She's out of the office tomorrow.
Well, but this is one important 4 weeks that we're going to lose. It would be nice to know if there's a hope to get through this, or we should change our plans.
Well, that you'll just have to wait and see for the next meeting. But
Can you make sure that you check the addresses next time, please?
Mm-hmm. Yes, we'll double check it for sure.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Appreciate you. Well, we'll hang up.
Okay.
All right, so I will go ahead and we'll take each item individually, and I will then ask the applicant to speak, the staff presentation, then the applicant, and then we'll open it up for commission questions, and then public comment if applicable. So we'll go to matter number 3. This is a text zoning ordinance text amendment modifying development standards in Jordan Bluffs sub-area 1 through 3 zone district, and Ben C. Strand and Garden Jordan Bluffs LC are the applicants. Alex, who's presenting on this?
This will be me.
Okay.
It'll be me
Great.
for the first 4 here.
Okay.
So last month we talked about the Zion's proposal, and that included a new concept for the overall development of the Jordan Bluffs sub-areas 1 through 3 area, which is basically the west and south portions of the overall Jordan Bluffs site. As part of that project, there were a number of ordinance provisions that needed to be adjusted so that Zion's could come through, and so that we could respond to this new concept that Gardner was seeking to pursue on that project. So this text amendment is probably the first of what will ultimately be several text amendments necessary to kind of see that project come through. This one includes what is largely the bare minimum to get the Zion's proposal and begin setting the stage for the rest of it. And we anticipate that as the development process continues, on Jordan Bluffs as a whole that we'll be bringing back more of these in the future for the Planning Commission and the council to consider. So far, this zoning ordinance has only been applied to one project. That's the Holmes Homes project. That's down at the south end of the overall Jordan Bluffs site. And assuming this text amendment is approved, it won't affect Holmes Homes' approval or their process because one, they've already got the vested right to develop what was approved, and the standards that we're proposing to add or modify in here aren't going to be ones that will really end up affecting Holmes Homes' project anyway. So this text amendment proposes changes in several sections of the ordinance, and I'm just going to run through them really quickly, and then we can talk about any questions afterwards. First, because the concept is different, we need to put in a new pod map and address that there's a different number of pods. So this would reduce the overall number of pods in the beginning of the ordinance from 14 to 12 and establish new boundaries for those pods, in addition to some new road layouts that end up affecting one of the later sections. This section also means that we'll need to update the master development agreement for the overall Jordan Bluffs property, which is something that the city council will approve and will bring to them after the planning commission makes a decision on the text changes. The next section that gets changed or needs to be changed for this is the development requirements section. This includes changes to the road network, road standards, landscape setbacks, building setbacks, and building heights in certain pods in the project area. First, within that section is the new street system. And I'm gonna put this up on the screen here real quick. If you'll give me just a second. Matt, could you let me share my screen, please?
You should be good now.
So here you can see the new road network that is proposed for the overall Jordan Bluffs area. This is a bit of a departure from what we had originally proposed, and it does end up including some new standards for roads based on classification and priority within this new sort of semi-urban core concept. So we have primary streets, secondary streets, and tertiary streets, each with separate standards that will eventually serve to create a more vibrant, walkable center than we would have originally received under the old standards. So we have some road changes in there, and you can see that we've added new sections that include travel lanes, bike lanes, on-street parking in certain areas, and some medians to meet that or to accomplish that goal. We've modified setback requirements in here from 15 down to 10 feet on most of the general roads. The not what I would call less important roads. So this is kind of the catch-all for anything that's not otherwise listed, like Bingham Junction, Center Street, Ivy Drive, etc. And you can see that in here. For the new buildings and that new concept in the central area, we did propose some new setback requirements that, as you can see within these pod changes, essentially say that the setback or the location of the building rather drives that setback. Next, within this section is a change in the building height proposal. Currently, the east side of Jordan Bluffs allows up to 80 feet in pods A, B, and C. And then in the remaining pods, it allows up to 180. Gardner has begun shopping out some pod sites or some development sites to potential tenants and found that there's a desire to have slightly taller buildings, or at least a modified way to determine the height of those buildings. So we have a proposal here to increase the overall height from 80 to 95 with a modification for how it's measured. So instead of measuring from existing grade to the midpoint of a sloped roof or the parapet, it now goes from finished grade to the top of the exterior wall, excluding the parapet, which then can go an additional 8 feet above that. We have new build to and frontage requirements along the new streets. So this doesn't affect any of the existing streets like Bingham Junction and the east portion of Ivy Drive, but the west portion of the area west of Bingham Junction or south, depending on where you're at in the project area would have these new standards that serve to require the buildings to be built up to the street in order to eventually achieve that sort of urban walkable concept. It also includes some standards about encroachments and some parking lot setbacks to try and preserve the street frontage. And then that applies, there are 3 different requirements based on the priority of the street. So primary, secondary, and tertiary, similar to how we did it in the form-based code, albeit with a lot lighter of a requirement because it's not necessarily trying to accomplish the same goal. The next section is a parking change. This is a relatively minor one where we currently say 3 stalls per 1,000 for a general office or 5 stalls per 1,000 for an intense office. This proposes to change it to no fewer than 3 and no more than 6, depending on the type of use, which in staff's mind ends up being an improvement overall because originally we could have seen, 6+ sorts of parking arrangements. And now instead of setting just a solitary minimum, we have a maximum to hopefully keep the number of parking stalls down into a more manageable or reasonable number for that area. We also modified some of the spacing. Following some of the comments and discussions that we had with the city engineer, he expressed some concern that we had written the spacing requirements into the zoning ordinance, which removed really his ability to determine what was appropriate for those streets, and where the city engineer is the one that ultimately is responsible for ensuring that street widths and such are maintained and access point, and he's the one that reviews access points and permits those. We thought it would be more appropriate to convert those requirements into recommendations and vest the ultimate approval authority in the city engineer so that he, being the most experienced person, can make the call for what's appropriate there. In addition to some of those changes on the spacing, we've also added some on-street loading area language. This came about due to some concerns that we stumbled across in the Bingham Junction side as part of the CHG expansion project from last year. And so what we've done is written in some language that allows on-street loading areas where they weren't allowed previously. And it does establish standards like it must be within the right-of-way. It has to be finished and signed separately from like your typical parking areas. And then it applies some length and time limits and such on there so that those areas can remain usable and reserved, but don't ultimately negatively impact the street. In fencing, we made a change because originally it said all loading docks and service areas needed to be screened. We just changed that to off-street loading docks and service areas so that that doesn't conflict with the on-street language. In both the residential and commercial development sections, we have a couple changes. First is removing height language, which was duplicated in each of these sections. Since we have it in the overall development section above, it doesn't really make sense to have it repeated 2 additional times as we get down into the specific project types. It was all the same language originally. We can just keep it in one place instead of having it in 3. And then we also redefined the parking garage screening requirements and developed a new standard that's defined as within clear sight of. Within clear parking garages that are within clear sight of major roads, which includes Bingham Junction, Center Street, and new proposed primary and secondary roads, or within clear sight of the public park, now have a finish requirement that's a little bit more manageable than it was originally. The original requirement was fairly vague, and now we've put in a more objective standard that says those areas within clear sight of those improvements or those areas of concern need to be finished with at least 30% materials that match the primary building on the site. It removes some of the openings and the entrance requirements that we had before that were a little problematic and would have dramatically increased the cost of parking garages in this area. And then to define what's within clear sight of those areas, we've added some definitional language that says, sorry, I'll move down. Within clear sight is roughly parallel to those roads or the park within a certain distance and not blocked from view by some other buildings. So some of these parking garages might be visible from some of those public streets, but if they're over a certain distance, then they might not actually have to be finished in this fashion. This gives us some flexibility to make sure that we address the elevations that are the most concerning while freeing up some of the attention to be paid on other buildings, or to just, you know, propose or encourage blocking them from view from some of those primary streets. And then also, just as kind of a final note on those ones, it does require them to comply with what are essentially the parking lot setbacks of that new section L that we put above with the build to lines. That's the same in residential and commercial. So we'll skip over that one. And then in the sign language, the proposal is just to increase the area and the height for the overall area monument sign, which we'll talk about very briefly in the next presentation. But that's the one that's located at Center Street and Bingham Junction Boulevard. And it serves to provide some direction or some, to bring the passersby some awareness that the project is there. It's not a dramatic change, so we're not terribly worried that it's going to create any issues. It does, however, because of the way that sign ordinances have evolved over the last few years, we do propose removing some content-based restriction in there, which is that not for tenant identification section. The city is very limited in its ability to restrict signs based on what they say. And so we try to avoid doing that wherever possible. And this is just an opportunity for us to clean that up. So if the Planning Commission is satisfied or okay with these proposed changes, then it does need to go to the council for ultimate adoption. And these changes are a prerequisite for some of the, well, for at least one of the items that we'll hear a little bit later today. So I'm happy to answer any questions that the Planning Commission might have. Staff does recommend approval of this one, or staff recommends a recommendation of approval for this one, with one quick change, which is on this road classification figure. We want to see that the bike lanes are added in there. So because the new road standards do have some bike lane provisions in them, we want to make sure those are called out, at least the minimum bike lanes, so that it's a little more apparent where we expect to see those come in. I've been working with Gardner on preparing a new graphic, so we'll have that available before we go to City Council, and we'll just swap it in here for this image if the Planning Commission is okay with it. Any questions?
I don't have any.
I don't have any.
Okay.
The applicant's present. Ben, do you have anything you'd like to add to Alex's presentation?
No, he did a wonderful job. I think just a thank you to all the staff and everyone who's worked with us through this process. It's been a lot of hours, a lot of meetings, and we're just really excited about this.
If the commission doesn't have any questions at this time, we'll open this up for public comment.
Okay, I'll start a timer.
Have we received any public comments to date?
Nope, not
Okay.
yet. We did say on the agenda we'd give 5 minutes for
Yes.
public comments to come in. So we'll sit in awkward silence for 5 minutes while the timer counts down.
Can someone verify that Facebook is working? I had people say the comments were not working on Facebook.
Rory,
Comments on Facebook. I can see 2 comments on the issue that got continued.
Okay, so you're receiving them, they're coming through.
Yes.
Okay.
well, I'm not expecting to receive any comments on this one. It only affects 2 projects right now. Rory, are you also monitoring the YouTube channel to see if there are
I
any
am.
comments there?
Yes, I don't have any on this, so I think we're good.
Good job, Rory.
Oh, thanks, Colleen.
Anybody got the Jeopardy theme they want to play? Do, 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 do.
I got caught humming earlier, so I'm not doing it again.
You were really good, Candy. I wasn't trying to give you a hard time.
Rory, it was pointed out to me that we want to make sure to record that Colleen showed up as present. It was at like 7:20 when she checked in.
Got it. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
Hey.
Believe it or not, I started working at 10 to 7.
Okay, 2
Only
minutes
you
left.
know we can't see your face, right?
Now you can't see my face?
Just your,
Just your chin.
Oh my.
There you go.
Okay. Of course, it's my mouth that's always going, so.
there we go.
I can't wait till we meet in person. This will be great.
I know. Is there anything in the near future, Alex, that we'll be able to meet as a commission?
Last I heard, we're still probably at least a month away.
Oh,
So
boy.
the July meeting, the first July meeting will likely still be electronic. If anything changes, I'll let you know.
That might actually change. The governor's executive order expires at the end of this month. So unless the legislature may be meeting in person again, or at a minimum having an anchor location and having some of you meet electronically and some of you.
Garrett, you were really hard to hear there, but if I understand what you're saying right, the executive order that allows anchorless meetings is about to expire, and we're still waiting to hear if that is going to be extended or if we're going to have to go back to in-person meetings.
That's correct. Sorry for the background noise.
All right, our time is up. I have not received any comments. Rory, do you have anything?
Now people are trying to get on. I'm trying to figure out how to respond on YouTube. For those that are listening, we are getting your comments on YouTube. We are getting your comments on Facebook. Just want you to know. But I'm not able to respond to the comments on YouTube, so.
All right, feel free to continue.
Okay, can I have a motion to close the public hearing, please?
I will. This is Robin. I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing.
Second, Colleen.
Okay, the public comment portion is now closed. Does the staff have any comments or commissioners have any questions that we didn't touch on?
I don't.
No.
Okay,
No.
then we'll entertain a motion.
Oh, shit.
Motion.
Who's going to do the motion?
Candy, do you want me to make the motion?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, I move that we forward a recommendation to the city council to adopt the proposed text amendment to the Jordan Bluff sub areas 1 through 3 zone with a condition to update the public road classification graphic and to include the required bike lane network.
need a second? Okay, that's been motioned and seconded. Rory, will you take a roll call vote, please?
Was that second by Dustin?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Anderson?
Yes.
No?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
And Costello?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll now move on to matter 4 on our agenda, which is a Jordan Bluffs Pod D/E Zion Bank Office Campus at 7860 South Bingham Junction Boulevard. The large-scale master plan for 400,000 square feet of office project. What is this? Oh, JB sub area 1 through 3 zone. Ben Seastrand and Gardner Jordan Bluffs are the applicant. And Alex is presenting.
Yes. Before I get started on this one, though, it looks like we are getting, as Rory mentioned, a lot of comments on the YouTube channel. And I wanted to clarify some of the procedural or some of the processes before we kind of move on so that folks can hopefully understand a bit more what we're doing here. The items that most people are commenting on the YouTube channel have been continued to the next meeting, so they won't be heard in this discussion. And any comments that were made will be read into the record when they are reheard in a future meeting. So it might look like we're not responding to those comments, but that's because we aren't holding a public hearing on those items tonight. It's been pushed to a later meeting. So feel free to continue to make comments. You can send them into the staff and we'll make sure to get those into the record, but we won't be responding to them in this meeting tonight. Okay, that said, let's move on to the next one. So this is, again, following our discussion last month, this is a request for a large-scale master plan approval for the Zions Bank office campus project at the north end of Jordan Bluffs. Now, assuming that text amendment gets approved by the council, located in Pod D, where previously it was in Pods D and E. This project includes about 400,000 square feet of office space, about 1,600 parking spaces split evenly between a parking garage and some surface parking, and then a variety of public and private amenities around the site, such as a dog park, new trail connections, a community garden, some gathering or plaza spaces, and some other ones. We went over briefly in the last meeting what the process looks like for large-scale master plans, but I'll go over that again really quick here, just for everybody to, so that everybody has a fresh reminder of what that looks like. So large-scale master plans are in this zone a little bit different than they are in other zones. They are an administrative action that the Planning Commission engages in, and they serve as the only time the Planning Commission sees these projects. They are followed by a development agreement that the City Council is required to approve. And then after the development agreement is approved, they go to site plan reviews at the staff level. For this project, we've also got the text amendment that needs to be approved. There's a vacation and a subdivision that will need to be approved by the council, as well as an amendment to the master development agreement for Jordan Bluffs overall. On top of that, new development agreement and site plans. So I've got here on the screen kind of who reviews each step. So the large scale master plan is tonight. The preliminary subdivision that I've got called out on here is also tonight, and a couple items. The rest will follow in later reviews. So large scale master plans are intended to provide an overview of the project that will be implemented through the development agreement and the subsequent staff reviews. So we look at these kind of at a higher level, and we don't necessarily get into the same level of detail that we do in other projects or in other zones. So in this case, we're looking generally at the site, not just specifically making sure that every single numerical requirement has been satisfied. We do that through those other reviews. And in the interest of time, I'm gonna focus my comments on the items that we are calling out in the recommendation to be addressed as part of those other reviews. But that does not mean that there are issues with the site In fact, we find that it generally complies with the requirements and that these conditions that we're imposing are really all that we see necessary to respond to what could be gaps, but are really just elements that don't have enough detail at this point. So I'm just going to run through those real quick. We're staying here. First, there's a couple comments about roads. Or a couple recommendations about roads. The first is about Binary Way, which is at the south end of the project. And that road does need to be installed as part of this proposal, and there's no real indication in the large scale master plan submittal when that's going to happen. So in the development agreement, we want to make sure to cover that it's needs to be done by the time that the building is occupied. That's expected, but we'll want to make sure to call that timeline out in there, as well as the typical requirements about public installation and acceptance. Second, the traffic impact study, which the executive summary of which is included in the staff report and in the packet, recommends a few improvements to Bingham Junction and Center Street around this project. Those recommendations are supposed to be done by 2025, but where this project is the only one happening or the last one happening along these portions of the road, we're recommending that they be done now as part of this project. The three recommendations in the traffic impact study are to provide a second northbound left turn, as you can see drawn out on this site plan here, to provide an acceleration lane out of this Binary Way and Bingham Junction intersection, which will require some modifications to the existing planter that's in Bingham Junction. So I want to make sure to get that included in there. And then redoing the timing on the lights on Center Street. Those, the applicant has said they're not a problem. It's basically restriping, or in the case of this acceleration lane, modifying that planter, but we can deal with those at the site review. Next, and those also we are recommending need to be done by that occupancy date, which is expected at this point to be about 2 years, summer of 22. On landscaping and amenities, the plan does a good job of detailing out which amenities are expected to be provided. There's a couple things that we haven't yet seen the detail that we need to see on. The first is street trees. Second is the landscape setback on Binary Way. And that's street trees along Bingham Junction and Binary Way, by the way. So setback along Binary Way, the design for the crosswalks throughout the project, and then also this connection down to the Jordan River Parkway Trail. And then also just some basic calculations for landscaping in the parking lot. None of those are things that are going to result in material changes to the site plan, just documenting and detailing out what those look like. The zoning ordinance and the master development agreement do provide some standards to guide how those will appear. So for instance, the connection down to the Jordan River Parkway Trail is required to be at least 10 feet wide and provide at least 10 feet of landscaping on either side. So we'll just have to make sure that that kind of information gets incorporated into the development agreement, so that it's done also prior to occupancy about 22. In the large scale master plan, there's not a whole lot of detail about which of the proposed public amenities, if any, will be accessible to the public. So we just want to make sure that if any of those are intended to be publicly accessible, that we document that access and figure out maintenance responsibilities and such as part of this development agreement process. That's a negotiation that staff and the applicant and developer will need to go through as we put together that document and ultimately have it approved by the council. Next, the parking garage. You'll notice your packet does not have the same level of detail on the parking garage that we had talked about in the last meeting. So want to make sure that that is included in the development agreement. But there's also some design requirements inside the garage that will need to be satisfied. The exterior, with the changes to the text that we just talked about in the last item, will need some tweaking, but it won't really change the appearance or the size or anything on that parking garage. So we're in this case recommending that those items be called out in the development agreement, and then that we deal with that during the site plan review process. Specifically inside the parking garage, we're looking at making sure the stall widths are meeting the ordinance requirements, and then that we have some safe routes for people to walk through while minimizing rather potential conflict with cars. On the architecture front, I mentioned last meeting that we requested a reflectivity study for this project because there is a lot of glass proposed on the building. And happily, we got a study. It looks really good. Most of the areas that I was originally concerned about turned out to be not really worth worrying. I had originally been worried that we would see a lot of reflections onto Bingham Junction Boulevard and onto the Jordan River Parkway Trail on the east and west sides. This plan here, which is included in the staff report, shows the annual number, the expected or potential annual hours of reflections in reflection areas. So it ranges anywhere from 0 hours receiving reflections to 1,500 plus. So you can see that in the public areas on the east and west, we're generally limited to like maybe up to 15 hours per year of reflections hitting those areas. That's not really enough to warrant any sort of formal response. The one exception to that is this area right below the 6-story portion on Binary Way, which has certain parts of that area seeing 1,500 plus hours of reflections per year. And when you kind of calculate that out, you're looking at least, a third to half of all daylight hours being receiving reflections on the sidewalk and on the road. So what we would like to see is the applicant and developer put together some sort of proposal that reduces the impact of those reflections in that area. I don't necessarily have a specific proposal for them to consider. We had talked briefly about changes in the glass to get a lower reflection rating, maybe some other architectural improvements or some landscape changes that could kind of block some of those reflections. But I want to leave that open to the applicant to consider and to develop, and then ultimately have the council approve it as part of the development agreement. Just so that it's clear why that's necessary. The reflections on the sidewalk are going to create some situations or circumstances where the public may not be willing to use the sidewalk because it ends up either being very bright or very hot. And then in the road, those sorts of glares or reflections can create conflicts for vehicles as they navigate the corner of Binary Way right there, where it transitions from east-west to north-south, especially because there are crosswalks proposed at that corner, and having glare, people and cars all in the same spot creates potentially an unsafe condition that we'd like to minimize. Lastly, there's a sign proposed along Binary Way for the Zions project that is called out on the plans but doesn't have any details. There's also a sign up here at the intersection of Bingham Junction and Center Street. That's the project area monument sign that I mentioned briefly in the last item. That one we've got some plans for, but the Zion specific sign over on Binary, we don't. The zoning ordinance does impose some requirements for that are not proposed to be changed regarding height and area. So we just want to make sure those are pulled into the development agreement. Overall, we're pretty confident that we can address these items during the development agreement and the site plan processes. So staff recommends to approve with conditions. It feels like a lot, but it's really not a ton. So we do want to make sure that the approval is contingent on the council's approvals of all of the things that need to be done in order for this project to work out. That includes the text amendment that we just discussed, vacation of the existing Binary right-of-way, which is in the wrong location for this new layout, a new subdivision plat that fixes the property boundaries to match what is proposed, and then completion of the development agreement for the project. And then I've already gone through the items that we want to see addressed specifically in there, but we also just want to make sure that the staff report submittal is incorporated into that development agreement, so it's clear that this is the plan that is approved. And then, like we did on the last large-scale master plan, we do have the requirement for the applicants to continue the review process, and then if there are any if there's any disputes about what the Planning Commission approves as part of this large-scale master plan, that we bring those back for the Planning Commission to clarify. And then the findings are basically the same as they were last time, that the laying out what the process requires, the project generally complies with the conditions. We're satisfied that it meets the order. So here's the recommended motion. It's also in the staff report, and I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
Does anyone have any questions at this time?
I don't.
If there are no questions, then let's hear from our applicants.
Hey, I'll just step in really quick. This is Mark Murdoch with the Gardner Company, and just say thanks everybody on this project. Right now, we have on the line 2 of Zion's chief officers, Jennifer and Jed. We also have our architects, WRNS, Brian and Brian. And we have worked quite a bit with Alex over the last 3 to 4 or 5 weeks now, whatever it's been. And Alex has been great, and we've had to kind of hammer out some issues, but it's been a great process, and we're very excited about this project. And I hope you guys saw the press release. And I would just like to say thanks to everybody for the hard work that's been going on this project. So we're very excited. We're slated at the moment to start in August, and I have the whole team on here. If you have any questions, now is a fantastic time. Otherwise, we'll see you at the next one.
Any questions from commissioners?
I don't have any.
Okay, seeing no questions, we'll open this up for public comment.
Okay, started the timer. I have not yet received any comments on this item. And I didn't see any on the YouTube channel.
No, I haven't either.
I feel like I'm staring away from the screen too much because I have 3 monitors.
Can an architect make a comment right now, or would that be untoward?
It's up to you, Candy.
I'm fine with that. Go ahead, Brian.
Here's the comment. Alex is awesome.
That's why he didn't want to take your comment, I guess.
Would you please move to San Francisco?
I don't know that I want to live in San Francisco.
Let's leave it at
that's not true. I would love to live in San Francisco. I don't know that I'll ever be able to afford to do so.
Let's leave it at Alex is awesome.
Sounds good to me.
That's my comment.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
Five minutes seems like a really long time.
Well, we're only 2 minutes in, so.
Yeah, 5 minutes is a
Hold on
really
to your
long time.
Also, Rory, thank you for that comment on YouTube. We're continuing to get comments about items that we're not discussing in this meeting. So I might, after the next item, maybe restate that we're moving it to, or we moved it to later. at 1:15 left. So
Oh, time's just flying by.
if anybody's got a good joke that'll take 1 minute and 10 seconds to tell, now might not be the time to do it. But. Also, Rory, if you want to clarify for that comment, we'll send notices to 300 feet.
300 feet, thank you.
Yep. It'll also, so we'll redo, just so those listening can see or hear, we'll do notices out to 300 feet from the project boundary, repost it in the paper, repost it on the property, and repost it on the website. So we'll just redo everything.
Questioning to 300 feet, Alex.
That's the standard distance.
Okay.
Okay, 5 minutes is up.
Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public comments. Can we have a motion for that, please?
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second that.
Second. Oh, yeah.
Dustin seconded. Commissioners, do you have any questions at all?
Do you want to take a vote on closing it?
Sorry. Can we take a roll call vote on closing the public comments?
Yes, thank you. Commissioner Costello.
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
No?
Yes.
And Erickson?
Yes.
Okay, now I will ask if any of the commissioners have questions.
I have no questions.
I do not.
Okay,
No.
seeing none, we'll go ahead. I would entertain a motion on this matter.
This is Robin. I move that we approve the application for a large-scale master plan for Pod D of the Jordan Bluff area at 7860 South Bingham Junction Boulevard and adopt the findings and conditions of approval presented in the staff report.
I second. This is Candace.
Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Commissioner Anderson?
Yes.
No?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
And Costello?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll now move on to matter 5, which is a request to vacate city-owned right-of-way approximately 7860 South Bingham Junction Boulevard, Jordan Bluffs sub-areas 1 through 3 zone, and Ben Seastrand and Gardner Jordan Bluffs LC are the applicants. And Alex, you're presenting, correct?
Yep. Okay, this one will be probably longer on the public comment portion than on anything else. So let me share my screen again. So this is a request for a vacation of some streets that were just platted earlier this year. As part of this Jordan Bluffs Lot 201 amended subdivision that we reviewed, it was like January, February, March-ish. A couple of roads were platted. That was done so that the original conceived boundary for the Zions project could be separated out from the rest of Jordan Bluffs. With this new proposal, those roads are now in the way. So Gardner has requested that we vacate the roads so that they can rededicate them in the right location. And after checking with our engineering and other departments, we determined that the proper process to do so would be to hold this vacation request first and then redo the subdivision plat afterwards. So this request is really just for these two rights of way. Oh, where's my mouse? These two rights of way within Jordan Bluffs to be vacated. The Title 12 in the city's ordinances sets up the process that we use to respond to vacation requests. It requires staff to consult with the other departments in the city and determine if there are any concerns about the proposed vacation. In this case, where the roads haven't even been constructed yet, and we're just looking at wiping the slate clean to rededicate them afterwards. Nobody had any comments. So ultimately, there isn't a whole lot to say about it, aside from we do recommend that these rights of way be vacated so that we can realize that new concept for Jordan Bluffs. And then when we go through the subdivision in the next item, we'll see the beginnings of the new boundary. Any questions?
No.
Do the applicants have any comments?
Nope, no comment. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, we'll go ahead and open this up for public comment.
All right, our timer's going. By the way, I have not received any comments on this item, nor does it look like we have anything posted on the YouTube channel. Rory, anything on Facebook?
No, I see nothing on Facebook either.
I should have mentioned this earlier, this type of decision is made by the city council. So this will be a recommendation to the council for them to decide on in July. Just in case, I'm gonna repeat this for anybody watching, but we're leaving this portion open so that anybody that is interested in making comments can do so. We can take comments by email sent to me at amurphy@midvale.com, or they can be posted on the YouTube or Facebook pages, or YouTube channel or Facebook page. And anything that is submitted in writing will be read into the record for this particular item. We do this for each item, holding the record open for 5 minutes so that anybody that's interested in providing comment in response to the presentation or any of the other comments can do so. We're at about halfway through now, so we've got just a little under 2.5 minutes to go. Maybe I should have done less than 5 minutes on these ones. I was really hoping we weren't going to continue doing virtual meetings like this. So 5 minutes made sense when we expected a lot of comments.
So if there's not, Alex, can we just do like 2.5?
I am hesitant to do that because we did post on the agenda that we would leave it open for 5. So I'd hate for somebody to expect 5 and find out that we shortened the period that they could provide a comment because we were bored of waiting.
Okay.
Okay, our time is up.
Can we get a motion to close the public hearing, please?
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
I second.
Sorry.
Okay, that's been motioned and seconded. Rory, can you please take a roll call vote?
Sorry, forgot I was muted. Commissioner Snow,
Yes.
Erickson,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
and Anderson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion on this matter or a recommendation on this matter.
So I'll make a recommend. I move that we forward a positive recommendation to the city council for the vacation of the Binary Way and Ivy Drive rights of way as described on the Jordan Bluffs lots 201A amended subdivision plat.
I second it.
Rory, will you please take a roll call vote?
Yes, Commissioner Erickson,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
and Snow.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move on to matter 6. Jordan Bluffs Lot 201A, second amended subdivision, approximately 7860 South Bingham Junction Boulevard, preliminary subdivision plat for 2-lot subdivision. Jordan Bluffs sub-areas 1 through 3 zone. Van Seastrand and Garden Jordan Bluffs LC are the applicants. Alex?
So this is our last one in this array of Zion's related approvals. So this proposal, following on the vacation of, assuming that the vacation of those 2 rights of way is approved, this subdivision plat proposes redefining the property boundary for the Zion's project and dedicating the new right of way for Binary Way. You'll notice this one does not have the full connection through the center of Jordan Bluffs. With the approval of the large scale master plan earlier tonight, we no longer need to rely on the right-of-way dedication to create the boundary of the property, and we can just do it as part of a subdivision plat. So this would take what remains of the west side of the Jordan Bluffs project area, which is about 150 acres once you pull out the Holmes Homes portion at the south end and the east side that doesn't need to be included in this parcel, and would divide it into 2 lots, lot 1 and I think we call it parcel A, separating out the Zion's project from everywhere else. When we reviewed this according to the applicable ordinance requirements and didn't find a whole lot of issues with the proposal, we review it under Title 16, which governs the subdivision process. Title 8, because there is some floodplain area included in this subdivision plat where the Jordan River is located, and Title 17 for the applicable ordinance requirements. The MDA, the Master Development Agreement for Jordan Bluffs, also applies here because it does require that Gardner retain ownership of the cap slope areas on the north, west, and south sides of the overall project. And you can see that we do have a proposal here that moves the property line onto the slope as part of an overall proposal with the large scale master plan to fill in some of that slope area and relocate the slope boundary All of that is under review as part of the large scale master plan process. So the only reason it impacts the plat here is that we need to make sure that the plat doesn't get recorded until that grading work is done. So even though we can move forward with the plat, we want to make sure that that slope area is relocated before it gets recorded so that Zions doesn't accidentally end up owning the slope area that Gardner is required by the MDA to retain. We did send this to the city engineer and area fire inspector, who didn't really have a whole lot of concerns. The city engineer does have some technical items as per usual to address on the final plat. And this will require the city council review the preliminary plat because it includes a public road. So we, at the staff level, recommend that the Planning Commission issue a positive recommendation to approve the plat with some conditions relating to some of the specifics to Jordan Bluffs, including that we go through the typical process. This is based on the large scale master plan. The requirements about infrastructure and trees and such are addressed as part of that large scale master plan. And then that we make sure that it's not recorded until the grading work is done at the end of the process. So it's a fairly straightforward proposal now that we have the large scale master plan in place. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, any questions?
I don't have.
Okay, seeing none, does the applicant have anything they'd like to add?
Nope, it's perfect. Thank you.
Well, okay, we'll go ahead and open this up for public comment.
I've started the timer, so we'll hang out for another few minutes. I guess I should say at this point that I have no public comments on this item. I haven't received any emails, nor does it appear that we have any messages or comments on the YouTube channel. Rory, do you have anything on Facebook?
No, nothing.
Now would be a great time for someone to tune in and wonder why we're sitting here staring awkwardly in silence. Two minutes, 2-minute warning.
Significant in football, but not so much now.
No, it really isn't. All right, we are at the mark.
I'll entertain a motion to close the public comments.
I make a motion to close the public comments.
A second.
Rory, will you please take a roll call vote?
Yes, Commissioner Anderson.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Erickson
Yes.
and Costello.
Yes.
Thank you.
Assuming there's no other comments from the commission, I would like to entertain a motion on this matter.
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, regarding the application for a primary subdivision plat for 2-lot subdivision at 7860 South Bingham Junction Boulevard, I move that we adopt the findings and conditions of the approval presented in the staff report, recommending the city council approve the preliminary plat with conditions.
Second.
Rory, will you please take a roll call vote?
Yes, Commissioner Costello.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
And Erickson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. We really appreciate your time.
you.
Lovely
Thank you.
evening. Thanks again.
Always good to see you.
Good to see you guys as well. Thank you.
Okay, we have one more public hearing matter, number 7, which is a conditional use permit at 7174 South 400 West for vehicle repair use. In a, what CI, is that clean?
Clean industrial.
Thanks, clean industrial zone. Christopher Blasdale is the applicant, and Jenna, I am assuming you are presenting.
Yes. Okay, and you guys can see my screen?
Yes.
All right. So this is actually a vehicle, a detailing shop, like cleaning, and that fits under the definition of vehicle repair as far as conditional uses are concerned. And then, so the location, let's see, have this in the map. I gotta put this on slideshow. Wow. Okay. So it's in the clean industrial zone, just right there by the freeway. And this is a 2,700 square foot tenant space with 1 bay. And there will be 4 employees, and the hours of operation are proposed to be 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. This is the parking plan. Typically in these, we're just verifying that there's enough parking, and parking is based on number of bays. So they're required to have 4 parking spaces for the 4 employees and 4 parking spaces per bay. So they've provided the existing tenants and a parking plan that satisfies the requirements for all the tenants in the building. There are no other concerns, and they won't be doing any actual vehicle repair with any chemicals or any other things that we would be concerned about. It's adjacent to other clean industrial zones, and staff recommends approval. Does anybody have any questions on this one?
Nope, it's pretty straightforward.
Is the applicant present?
Yes, I'm here. Let me turn on my video. You can see me.
Do you have anything you'd like to add to Jenna's presentation?
No, I mean, other than, we've already met with the water reclamation, I forget the official name, like South Valley. The head of that, he was happy with our plan, and basically, if there was any oil or anything like that, we would collect that and then have it collected to be taken to the proper disposal and separation place. So that was his only real concern with us being there. There's no actual floor drains for water to go down to the sewer and stuff like that, where we can't capture anything that would maybe spill or whatever. So
we can contain all that and take care of all that stuff. Yeah, and then yeah, they're giving us plenty of parking. Like we don't anticipate any problem with anything like that. I don't know if anyone has any other questions or anything.
Commissioners, are there any questions?
No?
I have one, Chris.
Yeah, I have one too. Go ahead, Robin.
Chris, I'm wondering what exactly are you going to be doing in there? Just describe a little bit of it to us.
So just auto detailing, so cleaning and protecting vehicles. So, you know, basic washing, nothing like real dirty, but, you know, just basic washing so that we can do things like paint correction, like get rid of scratches. No auto body where we're actually painting or, you know, replacing parts, no mechanical work, nothing like that. Probably the biggest service that we're going to be doing in there is, you know, like interior detailing, paint correction, coatings, which is like, you know, really good protection on vehicles, things like that. So.
Window tinting?
No, we don't. There's actually a tinter that's 2 doors down already from us. But
Got you. Okay.
We're not, yeah, we don't do anything like that, so.
Okay, that's all.
This is Candace. I had a question. How many vehicles fit in your bay when you're working?
Like if we packed it full of cars, you mean? Or just
Kind
while
of, yeah.
we're working on? I mean, if we really packed it full, I'm guessing we could fit like 6 or 7 cars in there. I don't think we would ever do that. I mean, when we're actually working on cars in the shop, it'd probably be 2, maybe 3 at a time at the most. But nothing more than that, I don't think.
Sure. I was curious more than anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions, commissioners, at this time?
No, I have none.
Okay, let's go ahead and open this up for public comment.
I have started the timer.
You're good at that, Alex.
I do, after the last meeting, I have a bit of practice. I haven't received any emails. Jana, have you received anything?
No, no comments.
Jana, we're seeing your email screen, by the way.
Oh.
My email screen?
Jana.
No, mine.
You might just want to stop sharing your screen.
Yeah, I will.
Come on, I wanted to see what she was going to buy us on Amazon.
It's public comment, just public comment. That's what I'm doing. I don't know how.
Hannah, you are still sharing your screen, by the way.
I can't see you.
And oh, well,
Yeah, I can't see it either.
I'm still seeing
I
it.
can't see
There
it.
it goes. There it goes. She's also muted, so she didn't respond.
Someone had to help me. I didn't turn it off. Someone else did.
That'll give me nightmares.
Yeah.
My screen accidentally. Oh my goodness.
Right.
Always IT. Always IT.
Thank you.
It looks like we did get a comment on YouTube, but I'm not sure that it's associated with this project. So I'll just read it out loud. It says, parking is very important. We did address parking for this particular project. And if the comment's intended for another project, then, well, we can't really assign it to anybody else at the moment. And with that, we are at the 5-minute mark.
I'd like to entertain a motion to close the public comments.
I make a motion to close the public comments.
A second.
Rory, will you please take a roll call vote?
Yes. Commissioner Erickson,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
and Snow.
Yes.
Thank you.
Commissioners, do you have any other comments about this matter?
No.
Seeing none, I'd like to entertain a motion.
I'll do one. Dustin Snow. Regarding the application for a preliminary subdivision plat for a 2-lot subdivision at 7860 South Bingham Junction Boulevard.
No, wrong one, Dustin.
Sorry, I forgot to scroll down. Scratch that. I'll let somebody else. I'm on the wrong page.
Regarding the application for a conditional use permit for vehicle repair use at 7174 South 400 West Street, I move that we adopt the findings and conditions of approval presented in the staff report.
Second.
Rory?
Okay. Commissioner Snow,
Yep.
Erickson,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
and Anderson.
Yes.
Okay, welcome to Midvale.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have an action item. That is a conditional use permit for 7531 South Birch Street, an extension of the conditional use permit for duplex. Single family 1. I don't know all these. Ryan Hughes and Bedrock Ventures are the applicant.
This one's mine. So Mr. Hughes, unfortunately, is unable to attend tonight, but I did tell him that this was a pretty basic sort of response from the Planning Commission and that it shouldn't be a problem. So Mr. Hughes last year received approval for a conditional use permit at 7531 South Birch Street. And since then has been working on getting his building permit and financing and everything going on that project. His building permit has been reviewed and at this point, as I recall, is just awaiting issuance so that he can get started. However, the coronavirus epidemic hit a few months ago, as you might recall, and he had to put the project on hold in response to that, and now is approaching his deadline for that permit expiring. Conditional use permits are good for 1 year from the date that they're issued. So his was issued on July 10th. which means that come July 10th of this year, it will expire and he'll have to start over with that process if it's not extended. The zoning ordinance provides, or gives rather, the authority to the Planning Commission to extend those conditional use permits, and essentially the only requirement we have is that the extension can't result in an unmitigated impact. For this particular project, nothing has changed in the neighborhood. There's no change to the zoning ordinance. There's no real change to the project. There's nothing that we really expect to provide any sort of impact. The delays were not really due to something that the applicant had any control over. So staff in this case recommends granting a 1-year extension on that permit, which would give him until July 10th of next year to continue that process. The expectation is that a little later this summer, Mr. Hughes will be able to pull that permit and get started on the construction, hopefully once this epidemic slows down a little bit. But just in case, that year would give him some more time to begin that process. Once the permit is issued and construction begins, we'd use the building permit on the expiration instead of the conditional use permit. Those are good for 6 months from the last time an inspection was completed. So once he pulls the permit, then he'll basically have 6 months to make some progress, and then it can continue until he finishes without additional effort from the Planning Commission. So like I said, we'd recommend the Planning Commission grant that 1-year extension, and in the staff report is a recommended motion, or a motion that would do so. This is not a public hearing, so feel free to ask me any questions if you have them, and I'll try to answer or go through any discussion.
Commissioners have any questions?
No.
I think it's a no-brainer.
Seems pretty straightforward.
Okay, then can I entertain a motion, please?
I'm on the right page this time. I'll do it. Based on compliance with 17-3-4 of Midvale City Municipal Code and due to circumstances beyond the applicant's control, I move that we grant a 1-year extension for the Birch Street duplex conditional use permit at 7531 South Birch Street.
I'll second that.
Rory, will you please take a roll call vote?
Yes, Commissioner Snow,
Yes.
Erickson,
Yes.
Costello,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, that passes. Okay. It looks like our next item is reviewing of minutes.
Yes, and if I recall correctly, there were some concerns on the minutes from last time.
I have some notes.
Okay.
You are so boring.
I know, but you have to remember, I worked in a law office and I did a lot of proofing. So for the minutes on July 10th, I have a few changes. On the second page, under the public hearing paragraph, after that public hearing heading, the first line, we need to remove that. So the sentence reads better. Does that make sense?
So you want to say, I presented the applicant?
Yes.
That whole sentence is just weird.
It is kind of weird, but that's the easiest way to fix it.
Okay.
And then under the ordinance consideration, the third paragraph, beginning with compliance, it's just a tense thing. We need to change was to were.
I would actually push back on that one because
okay,
the compliance with the zone requirements were verified. That sounds weird. That doesn't sound right.
Okay, it's just a tense thing, but we can leave it. I'm okay with that. Okay, page 8, first line. Can we insert a to before the?
Object to. Is that right?
Yes, please.
Okay.
On page 10, under discussion, the first paragraph, the last full sentence. I wrote this a while ago. I think it says change into them.
Hold on, say that again.
Last full sentence.
Under discussion.
Yeah, under discussion, first paragraph, paragraph 1.
This will be a family rented residence.
Yeah. Change in. Is there,
Rent. There's in the second to last sentence, it says then rent in. So is it rent it?
yes.
Okay.
Okay. And then page 11, under discussion, 5th paragraph. I'm not sure if it needs to be changed to Burns.
Page 11 doesn't have discussion on it.
Okay, never mind then.
Do you mean on page 13, it says Mids Burn, so that could be it.
Yeah, just change it to Burns because it needs
Yep.
an S.
Yep, that's her name.
Yeah, okay. So that's all on those minutes. Does
Okay.
anyone else have anything on that set of minutes?
I wasn't here at that meeting, so I pass on that.
Okay. Fine. The minutes on the minutes on 4/8.
On 4/8, do you want to do any 9/11 first?
9/11, I don't have any changes.
I
Does
didn't
anyone have any changes on 9/11?
I went through that one and I didn't have any.
Okay.
Okay.
Minutes 4/8. Page 2, first paragraph. Under roll call, insert had after she,
Okay.
and that's all I got. Sorry, I'm nitpicky.
That's all right.
But I don't work anymore, so maybe I'll just be more relaxed now, and I just won't worry about it.
I doubt it.
Okay. I have noted those changes. We'll need a motion.
Like to have a motion to accept the changes to the minutes?
I would make a motion to accept the meetings from July 10th, September 11th, and April the 8th. And with all the motions, with all the
changes
added into it.
Second.
Okay, that's been motioned and seconded. Roll call vote, please, Lori.
Okay. Do you vote on this one, Candace?
Yep.
No, I don't vote.
Nope.
Don't vote at all. Okay, just making sure.
I just get to make comments. I don't get a vote.
Making sure. Okay, Commissioner Costello.
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
No?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. And Rory is helping us get caught up on the rest of them, hopefully.
Hey, Rory.
You guys are easy on me tonight.
Okay, so that just leaves one more thing on our agenda. Alex, you're up.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. I don't really have a whole lot in this kind of staff update section. So we do have those 2 items, and just in case anybody is still watching, items that were originally numbered as 5 and 6, the Casablanca rezone and the Pine subdivision plat, were moved until the meeting in July due to some notice issues. So we'll reissue notice for those projects, schedule those. At this point, I'm anticipating as the first 2 items on that agenda. We don't have anything else that's been submitted yet for that meeting. So we have another week until the deadline, so we'll see if anything else comes in. I am expecting maybe 2 more projects for that one, and we'll, depending on what comes in, we might even put Jason on some of those, as throwing him right into the fire as he starts here. I'm not anticipating at this point that we'll have a meeting on the 24th. We don't have anything to discuss at that meeting, so we are in good shape for that, to basically just take that day off. So at this point, enjoy a free Wednesday night. I do want, as we get a little bit closer to the fall and working through some of these heavy agenda schedules that we've had, I do want to go back and revisit the bylaws. Probably my plan is like September, sometime between September and November, to go back and revisit the bylaws. So I would recommend that you guys take a look through the existing document, which I can send out if you need it, or you can find on the city's website, and see if you have anything that you want to change about how the planning commission meetings operate, if there's any sorts of additions that you want to add or things you want to take out. I'm at this point planning on trying to put together some language to cover electronic meetings a little bit more clearly, and then also to talk about some of the public comment and discussion sorts of topics. And then I just forgot what I was going to say as the last thing. So, I sent an email out earlier this week about Land Use 101 training for Bart and Candace. You guys, unless you can show me that you have done those already, we do need to make sure you get some of those trainings done here as soon as possible. The epidemic kind of threw a wrench into our training plans because several training opportunities were canceled somewhat unexpectedly. If you can't do the training tomorrow, it looks like the league is going to host one in October. That's really the next available training, and that they do typically run for like 6 hours on a Saturday. So I would recommend everybody attend a training if they can, and just to refresh and catch up on any changes that might have happened in the state law and the processes. That one tomorrow would be a good opportunity to just make sure you register in advance. The one that the league will do later this year doesn't have a fee on it, so you can find the link on the league's website, or I can send it out to you and you guys can sign up for it. And then if there's other training options that you're interested in pursuing, let me know. We do have some budget available to send commissioners to training conferences or things. The APA usually does a fall and a spring conference, so we could send you to that. Or if there's anything else that you're interested in pursuing, just to stay sharp or learn new things related to the position, just let me know and we can figure out if there's a way to make it happen. Otherwise, yeah, I don't really have anything else to add. I just appreciate you guys hanging out here tonight for a couple hours.
Well, and I'm sorry that I got such a late start fiddling around, but just, I just don't know what went wrong.
No worries.
It all worked out.
Yeah, as Garrett mentioned, the executive order that allowed us to do these meetings without an anchor location is set to expire soon. So we're just waiting to see what happens. And part of my reason for incorporating electronic meeting language into the bylaws is so that we can a little bit more clearly articulate how people can participate electronically, either as commissioners or as the public, assuming we find an appropriate way to incorporate that language in there. And I know our IT department is working on putting together a method for, hopefully, for people to participate electronically, even when we're in the council chambers. So whether it's commissioners participating electronically or commenters, we're trying to see if we can provide some additional methods for the public to communicate and participate in the process. Okay, any questions, anything else you want to go over before we adjourn?
No. It's good to see you, Rory.
Thank you. Great job, Candy. You did well tonight.
Thanks. It was scary.
No, you did great. I'm terrified to make a motion.
With that, I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
Not sure if you can. I don't know.
Oh, does someone else need to?
I can't do it.
Candace, you can.
Oh, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
At 9:01.
9:01?
9:01.
At 9:01.
Any opposed? Raise your hand if you're opposed. Seeing no hands, this meeting is adjourned.
Great, thanks everybody.
Yeah, good night.
Thanks, y'all.